Movies! We all have our opinions on them, whether they be popular or otherwise. I've kind of been talking about some of those unpopular opinions of mine for years on Media Mementos, so according to the Masters of Fate, I should keep on going with the top 10 movies that I hate, but everybody else loves. Now, of course, it goes without saying that if you like any of the movies on this list, you're wrong and an irredeemably horrible person. I'm kidding. If you like the movies, that's fine. You're totally allowed to like them, and hey, if it makes you happy, then sure, go right ahead and enjoy them. Just understand that these 10 movies, they're not really for me. And what are they? Well, let's start with number 10, Life of Brian. The first couple movies on this list are gonna be ones that I don't hate exactly. I can acknowledge that they're good movies, they're just not for me. And Monty Python's Life of Brian is the biggest example of that out of all the movies I've ever seen. To me personally, there is no better Monty Python anything than Holy Grail. It's one of the best comedy movies of all time, so following that, of course, is going to be a difficult feat. You can't really top it per se, but you can try and get somewhat close to the quality level. Life of Brian can debatably do that, but for me, someone who's deep into the Christian faith, I don't really like the poking fun at the Christian story, Again, I acknowledge that it's of quality for sure. It's just that I'm definitely not its audience, so I'm not going to pretend to be a fan of it, but I'm also not going to say it's the worst thing to ever exist. A lot of Christians out there hate Life of Brian purely because of the subject material. And while yes, I don't like that it pokes fun at it, I also will say that it's not the most blasphemous movie ever made. There are some people that think it is, and no, it's just not. Number 9, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I love Jim Carrey. I think he's great, but when Jim Carrey relies on nothing except his Jim Carrey impression, to me, it starts getting a bit old. I've pointed this out several times, most notably in my controversial Batman Forever is Worse Than Batman and Robin video. And yes, I'll acknowledge that Jim Carrey's Jim Carrey impression is one of the reasons why he's so beloved as an actor. But he's also got a lot more than that. Movies like Bruce Almighty or The Mask show him in much more distinct roles with a lot more going for them than just wacky faces and voices. That's all I feel that Ace Ventura offers, and if you like that, okay, that's great. It's just not really for me. Number 8, Napoleon Dynamite. I think I'm going to jail after this video because I am an Idahoan who doesn't like this movie. I've tried so hard to like Napoleon Dynamite, but I just can't. Once again, much like Ace Ventura, it's a style of humor that doesn't really stick with me, but unlike Ace Ventura, I can't laugh at Napoleon Dynamite. I don't think any of it is funny. Sure, it's offbeat and weird, but at least to me, that's all it's got going for it. The characters are awkward, sure, the dialogue is semi-realistic to how weird people talk, okay. The situations are quirky, and the catchphrases are zingy, or whatever you call them. I get what's supposed to be funny, I just don't get it. That's kind of a complicated way of saying it, but you know what? I already said it, and I'm sticking with it. This thing was such a big cultural phenomenon back in the day, and when I was in middle school, people just kept bringing it up all the time. So I thought that I was crazy for not liking it, but then I realized that opinions are all subjective, no matter who holds them. You can like what other people hate, and you can hate what other people like, as long as you don't hurt anybody, it's a-okay. Number 7, this. Okay, really, it's Koyaanisqatsi. I took a film class in my freshman year of college. The entire class was watching critically acclaimed movies and getting our reactions to them and critiquing them or talking about why they're so beloved. I found some of my favorite movies of all time here, such as Jules and Jim or Rear Window. But not only did I find this movie, I found another one that'll be on this list. the professor was billing it as one of the most thought-provoking pieces that he had ever seen. And by the time it was done, not a single person in the class liked it. We almost started booing at the end, it just got so bad. The entire thing is this pretentious piece where we see nature in all of its beautiful natural glory being overtaken by human civilization, while these droning voices repeat the title over and over again until it just stops. I get the message. It's an important one, to be sure. Don't let life go out of balance. Don't have consumerism and greed take over your life. That's all fine and good. But does it have to be this slow and boring and pretentious? That's an honest question. Does it have to be? If it was maybe 20 minutes, sure, I might get behind it a bit more. But did it really have to be this long? It's a lot like those old Andy Warhol movies like Empire, where it's just a shot of one thing for way too long. But imagine that with a heaping spoonful of pretentiousness, and you've got this movie whose name is really hard to pronounce. Number 6, Incredibles 2. I was on vacation when I went to go see Incredibles 2. I went with some longtime family friends. We were so ready to see a sequel to one of our favorite Pixar movies, and by the time we left, everyone thought, it was good. But I disagreed. I just couldn't get into it. The characters were off, the story was lame, the twist was horrible, the jokes were flat, the list goes on. It reminded me a lot of, say, Monsters University, or Finding Dory, or the film that we will never speak of again, where it's just Disney slapping a popular label onto something, making a half-hearted project, releasing it to good reviews because everyone is so excited to see these characters again that they don't care how badly the story stinks, only for them to start changing their minds a couple months later, long after they've let the reviews and way too long after they bought their tickets. It's something I like to call the Phantom Menace effect. All you have to do is utilize a popular IP with a weak, watered-down sequel, and bam, you've got a gold mine. Much like Monty Python's Holy Grail, Incredibles 1 is one of those movies where you just can't top. And I wasn't expecting Incredibles 2 to do that, I was just expecting it to be, good. Number 5, Eraserhead. Yep, here come the Lynch fans, they're not too happy. David Lynch is a phenomenal director who's made some of the best movies of all time. I just don't think that Eraserhead is one of them. I get the themes, for sure. I like the atmosphere it creates and how uncomfortable and weird it is, but much like when I saw it in that film class way back in my freshman year of college, I was watching the movie going, okay, I get the symbolism, now what? And unfortunately, at least to me, I never really got that answer. I got the symbolism pretty quickly, I didn't care so much for the characters or what was really going on. I don't know. I just don't see this as one of David Lynch's greats. From what I understand, this was his first movie, so you've got to start somewhere. But this just doesn't do it for me, and I love analyzing movies and TV shows that I like. That's one of the main things I do on this channel, after all. In my eyes, the main thing that sets something like Eraserhead apart from something like my favorite movie ever, 1 Hour Photo, would be rewatchability. I'm not talking about noticing little things in the background that help change your theories. I mean it just being an enjoyable or pleasant experience. I don't enjoy watching Eraserhead, I just kind of get a little bummed out. But even then, not enough to make it a real emotional impact. It's just kind of mildly upsetting and that's it. Again, you can like this if you want, but for me, I'm good never seeing it again. Especially that ending. Gross. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. For whatever reason, I used to really not like the MCU, but then a couple years ago I decided to give it another shot, and lo and behold, for almost all of the movies, I was wrong. I fell in love with the likes of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, or Thor, the Dark World, yeah, I said it. But the 2 movies that I just could not find anything that I liked in them were Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Simply put, I don't like their style. Every single moment that they have where it builds character or adds to the lore is just interrupted by a silly, stupid joke, and they're constant, and they're not funny to me. For this to work, you really have to like the style of humor, and to me, it just falls flat every time and rubs me the wrong way. It's like every time we're going to get to know somebody, haha, Mary Poppins, haha. Every time I say this, people always say, well, Guardians 2 balances it out much better. And I'll kind of agree, it balances it out better, but it makes up for quantity with its increasingly worse quality. When Love and Thunder came out, and at least in my eyes, was appropriately hated, people kept saying that the tone was off and it kept getting interrupted by all these awful jokes, and I had to legitimately ask my friends, isn't that exactly what Guardians of the Galaxy does? Those same friends would also tell me that Guardians 3 was great, but I don't think I'll be giving it a shot. I didn't like the first two, so I don't think I'll like the third. Even though I don't like the movies, I will commend the people behind them for trying a new style. That way, it's not just the same thing as all the other Marvel superhero entries. This one's a bit more lighthearted and has a more comedic edge. I just wish that I found it funny. Number 3. Shrek Forever After. Shrek 4 is one of those movies that came out, was widely hated and forgotten about, but then a YouTube reviewer talks about it in a positive light, and now the script is flipped. Everybody loves this thing, and if you disagree, you're an idiot. Trust me, I've seen the comments on the Shrek Forever After video. We still stand by everything we said. Or rather, what Billy said, because I only appeared in the very beginning. And before anyone says anything, no disrespect to Shea Frillis, I think he's great. I just don't agree with him on this particular topic. And I'm also a little annoyed that now Shrek Forever After is being seen as something it's not. A heartwarming, thought-provoking tale that adds new elements to the Shrek story. But I disagree. Shrek 3 at least felt like a legitimate follow-up to the two films that came before. If you removed Shrek 4 from the lineup, nothing would change. In Shrek 3's case, it at least follows up on some of Shrek's previously established character traits. He's nervous to become a dad, he wants his old life back and doesn't want to be king. He loves Fiona and wants a life with her, but he fears following the traditional ogre path. These were all things set up in either Shrek 1 or 2, and for better or worse, had their payoff in the third. Shrek 4 creates its own problem from out of nowhere, one that doesn't entirely make sense with Shrek's character, and then solves it at the end with no other impacts. Nobody progresses, nobody changes except for Shrek, but again, it doesn't make sense that he would. Wasn't Shrek entirely happy just living on the swamp with Fiona forever? Wasn't that the main thing he wanted to achieve in Shrek the Third? Why are we going back on it? There's also a lot of missed opportunity. Why hasn't Lord Farquaad come back? After all, Shrek was never able to save Fiona from the tower, so naturally either Prince Charming or more likely, Lord Farquaad would have a drastic impact on the future of Far, Far Away. Then this could have caused Rumpelstiltskin to realize that he accidentally double-crossed himself and he could team up with Shrek to take Farquaad down, but then when Farquaad's defeated, uh-oh, we still have the original villain. But now I'm getting into fanfiction territory, so all I'll say is, if you want to hear our extended thoughts on Shrek Forever After, feel free and watch our video on it, link in the description below. That should explain everything. Number 2, Dead Poet Society. So the last two movies on this list are going to be Robin Williams movies, so I just want to say that I think Robin Williams is one of the greatest actors who ever lived. My favorite movie of all time, as previously stated, is a Robin Williams movie. I just think that his career hit a couple of bumps. And as unpopular as it is to say, I think Dead Poet Society is one of those. Now, it's not an egregious movie or one of the worst pieces of cinema to ever exist. That would be the next one. No, this one I just think is so hokey and over the top and melodramatic. I don't feel for any of these characters because they're all archetypes. There's the wacky, zany outsider who through unconventional means is able to turn things around. There's the wide-eyed, dreamy, innocent who's always got his head in the clouds, but golly gee, he's got a dream. There are the wacky best friends, the girl side characters who just are, I guess, girls and nothing else. And then the big, bad, stuffy establishment who wants everything done by the books and who scoff at any new ideas that come their way. We've seen it all before, and we would see it many, many, many more times in Robin Williams' filmography. As soon as the movie starts, you know exactly where it's going. It just thrives off of cliches in order to get by. None of the characters ever expand or go beyond the status quo. It's just one of those same stock plots you see over and over, but since it's got Robin Williams' charm in it, I guess it's supposed to be great. And man, that ending with the kid taking his own life, come on, really? I don't like the way it's portrayed, I don't like how little it's built up, I also don't like that it's over kind of nothing. Like sure, of course, I get it. When you're desperate, you tend to go to drastic extremes. But the movie doesn't make it clear enough that this guy is desperate and that his entire life depends on being in this one play. I know what everybody's going to say. It's because his father won't let him express himself. It's not all about the play, it's about getting away from his dad. Yeah, I get it, but it's still not portrayed very well. Besides, the relationship isn't really shown to be that bad either. Adversarial to be sure, but nothing outright hostile. I could go on, but really, it's just hokey, cliched, and over the top. I never really saw the appeal, and I'm kind of surprised it's as beloved as it is. But if you like it, more power to you. I mean, it could be worse. It could always be number 1, Patch Adams. I have said so many times that the Drawn Together movie is my least favorite movie of all time, but some people, I guess, don't consider that a real movie for whatever reason. So, if that movie doesn't count, then this would be it. This is the number 2 worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I've gotten a little bit of an unfair reputation for being an adaptation police guy, probably because of the Charlie and Baby Blues videos. Look, you can change source material, that's fine, especially if you do your own thing with it. And contrary to popular belief, you can also do that with real-life events. Take a look at Captain Phillips. That took several liberties with what really happened, and it still made an action-packed thrill ride of a movie. But the difference between the likes of Captain Phillips and Patch Adams is that the Captain Phillips changes were respectful to the people involved. They didn't make the people in Captain Phillips' story look like dangerous, incompetent idiots. Patch Adams, the real guy, was a very influential person in the medical field, but you wouldn't know that by watching his movie. It makes him look like a bumbling oaf who shouldn't be let near humanity, let alone sick people. It changes Patch's best friend into this love interest type with a phony backstory and a totally different cause of death. And of course, it takes this would-be fascinating story of a guy who made several changes to the medical field into a cheap, poorly written knockoff of Dead Poets Society. Great. No wonder the real guy disowned this movie. It's not the story of his life. It's just Robin Williams playing a lunatic inserted into someone's Dead Poets Society fanfiction. The entire vibe of this movie is just, we should win an Oscar! We should win an Oscar! Has anyone considered nominating us for an Oscar? It's just dripping with this sweet, saccharine fakeness all throughout. I can't stand it. And I also can't stand the thought that someone's going to suggest this for a complete history of video in the Patreon. Don't tell me how, I just know that day's going to come. And that, my friends, was the list of top 10 movies that I hate but everyone else loves. Stay tuned for next month, where we're going to do the opposite. I'm going to talk about the movies that I love but everybody else hates. But what about you, the viewer? What are some of the movies that you hate but everybody else loves? And what do you think of my picks? Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now, it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Brian Desero, Chan11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, Platinum Base, Sakamoto, Quiet Chap, Ravioli Supremo, Ryan Williams, Timey, Tokoblahuvian, and Woody Woo. And now for our executive producers, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Jackie Lopez, Kurt Bruenning, Leaf Storm, Unkale, Vanilla the Rabbit 98, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, or if you'd like your idea for a Media Mementos video to come to life, then feel free to donate to the Patreon. There's a link in the description below for you to check out. There's also a link to the Media Mementos Discord server, so stop on by and say hello. Alright folks, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.